My daughter said I was too poor to be a good mom. She regretted it when I got rich. My daughter Emma said it during her college graduation party at a restaurant I could barely afford. She was standing with her boyfriend Tyler and his parents when I walked over with my gift, a used iPad I'd saved for months to buy. Emma looked at the wrapped box, then at Tyler's parents who just handed her keys to a new BMW, and said loud enough for nearby tables to hear, "Mom, this is embarrassing. Tyler's parents pay for everything because you're too poor to be a good mom." I stood there holding the iPad while Tyler's mom looked uncomfortable and his dad studied his wine glass. Emma kept going, saying how ashamed she'd been her whole life that I worked as a grocery store cashier, how she'd lied about what I did for a living, how she couldn't wait to marry Tyler and finally have access to real money. I left the restaurant without saying goodbye and cried in my car for an hour before driving home to my tiny apartment. 2 months later, my uncle died and left me everything. Turned out Uncle Frank had been quietly investing in tech startups since the 90s, and his estate was worth $47 million. The lawyer said the money would transfer within 30 days. I didn't tell Emma. I didn't tell anyone. I quit my job, found a financial advisor, and started looking at houses in the neighborhood where Tyler's parents lived. Emma called me 2 weeks after the money transferred. She'd never called just to chat before, but suddenly she wanted to meet for lunch. She showed up looking nervous, asking careful questions about how I was doing financially, whether I needed anything. I told her I was fine, and she seemed relieved but also disappointed somehow. The calls kept coming after that, 3 times a week, then daily. Emma would drop by my new house unannounced, which she'd never done at my apartment. She'd walk through rooms slowly, touching furniture, asking about prices. She started bringing Tyler, who'd suddenly become very interested in my well-being. He'd ask about my investments, my plans, whether I had a will. I noticed other things too. Mail from my bank would arrive opened. Statements I'd left on my desk would be moved. My financial advisor called saying someone had tried to access my account, claiming to be my daughter. Emma brought her own financial advisor to dinner one night without asking, said she wanted to help me make smart choices since I didn't have experience with this kind of wealth. The advisor kept talking about putting assets in trust, estate planning, making sure family was taken care of. That's when I hired my own lawyer quietly, asked him to look into some things. He called me 3 days ago and said we needed to meet immediately. The documents he showed me made my hands shake. Emma had been working with Tyler's father, who was a probate attorney. They'd been building a case to have me declared mentally incompetent, witness statements from people I'd never met claiming I was confused and erratic, fake medical records, a conservatorship petition already drafted with Emma listed as conservator. They were planning to take control of everything, but there was more my lawyer had found, documents showing what Emma and Tyler's family were really planning to do once they had legal control of my assets. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. I stare at the documents in my hands, trying to make sense of what I'm seeing. The papers are filled with legal jargon, but certain phrases jump out at me like neon signs: severe cognitive decline, inability to manage financial affairs, recommended full conservatorship. These are all fabricated. My lawyer, Mr. Daniels, says quietly. He's a thin man in his 60s with shrewd eyes that miss nothing. Every single document. The medical evaluations claiming you have early onset dementia were created by a doctor who's never examined you. The signature belongs to Dr. Harold Winters, who, coincidentally, plays golf with Tyler's father every Sunday. I flip through the pages, my hands trembling. There are witness statements here from people I've never met. Paid testimonials, Mr. Daniels confirms. We've already interviewed 2 of them who admitted they were compensated to sign affidavits describing erratic behavior they never witnessed. The betrayal cuts deeper than I thought possible. I knew Emma was after my money, but this elaborate scheme goes beyond simple greed. "What's this?" I ask, pointing to a document titled Assisted Living Facility Intake Form. Mr. Daniels adjusts his glasses. "That's where they plan to place you once they gained control of your assets. It's a facility in Arizona, far from any friends or connections you might have here. The monthly cost is surprisingly low for what they advertise as luxury senior living. And this power of attorney document, forged. Your supposed signature doesn't match your handwriting patterns. We've already had a forensic document examiner confirm it. Tyler's father drafted it himself, using his firm's resources." I set the papers down and take a deep breath. So the plan was to declare me mentally incompetent, move me across the country to a facility where no one would check on me, and then drain my accounts while I was essentially imprisoned? That's the gist of it, Mr. Daniels nods. The documentation we found outlines transfers to offshore accounts that would have begun immediately after the conservatorship was approved. They had planned to liquidate your investments gradually to avoid suspicion. I pick up another document, this one showing a detailed timeline. They were going to file the petition next month. Yes, they needed to establish a pattern of concerning behavior first. Those strange questions Emma and Tyler have been asking you, they've been documenting your responses, twisting them to sound confused or irrational. I think about all those visits, the suddenly attentive daughter who'd never shown interest in my life before, the boyfriend who kept asking about my finances, the open mail, the attempted account access. There's more, Mr. Daniels says, sliding another folder toward me. We found communications between Emma and Tyler discussing how they would spend your money. Vacation homes, luxury cars, investments in Tyler's father's firm. They were quite detailed in their plans. I open the folder and see printed emails, text message transcripts, and notes. One exchange makes my stomach turn. "Emma, Dad says we can move her to AZ next month if the judge approves the petition. How long do you think we need to keep visiting her there?" Tyler: "Once we have control of the accounts, probably just holidays. No one will notice anyway. The staff said most residents there barely get visitors." Emma: "Perfect. I can't wait to be done playing the caring daughter. It's exhausting." I close the folder, unable to read more. My own daughter. Mr. Daniels clears his throat. "I've dealt with many family disputes over money, Mrs. Johnson, but this level of calculation is unusual. The involvement of Tyler's father makes it particularly serious. As an officer of the court, he's violated violated numerous ethical standards. What are my options? Several. We can file criminal charges immediately. Fraud, conspiracy, attempted elder abuse. There's enough evidence here for the district attorney to pursue a strong case. I nod, trying to think clearly despite the shock still reverberating through my system. Or, Mr. Daniels continues, we can gather more evidence first. Sometimes in these situations, it's beneficial to have an absolutely airtight case before moving forward, especially when dealing with someone like Tyler's father, who knows the legal system well. I think about Emma's face when she was a little girl, how she used to look at me with complete trust and love. I remember her graduation day, standing with Tyler and his parents, looking at my modest gift with contempt. I think about the words that cut me to my core. You're too poor to be a good mom. Now I understand. It was never about my parenting. It was always about money. And when she thought I had none, I was disposable. When she discovered I had millions, I became a target. I want everything, I say finally, my voice steadier than I expected. Every piece of evidence we can gather. I want to understand exactly how deep this goes and who's involved. And then I want them to face consequences for what they tried to do. Mr. Daniels nods approvingly. I recommend hiring a private investigator to supplement what we already have. Someone who can track their movements, record conversations legally, and possibly uncover additional motives or accomplices. Do it, I say. Money is no object. As I gather the documents to leave, a strange calm settles over me. The shock is giving way to something else. Determination, perhaps, or justice. For years, I worked double shifts as a grocery cashier to give Emma everything I could. I clipped coupons, bought secondhand clothes for myself so she could have new ones, skipped meals to ensure she never went hungry. And now I know exactly what that sacrifice meant to her. Nothing. One more thing, I say, turning back to Mr. Daniels. Don't let them know we're on to them. Not yet. He raises an eyebrow. You want to continue as if nothing has changed? Exactly, I say, thinking of Emma's false smiles and Tyler's probing questions. Let them think their plan is working. Let them dig themselves deeper. And when the time is right, we'll show them exactly who they're dealing with. As I drive home, I realize Uncle Frank gave me more than just money. He gave me the power to see people for who they truly are, and the strength to do something about it. After meeting with Mr. Daniels, I can't sleep. I lie awake staring at the ceiling fan, watching it spin in endless circles like my thoughts. The betrayal keeps replaying in my mind. Emma's calculated visits, Tyler's probing questions, the forged documents declaring me mentally incompetent. By morning, I've made my decision. I call Mr. Daniels at 7 a.m. I want that private investigator, the best you can find. 3 days later, I'm sitting across from Meredith Zhao in a quiet coffee shop downtown. She's not what I expected, younger than me by at least a decade, with sleek dark hair pulled into a practical ponytail and eyes that miss nothing. I've reviewed the initial documents, she says, sliding a tablet across the table, but there's more to this story than what's on paper. She shows me surveillance photos of Tyler entering various casinos over the past 6 months. Your soon-to-be son-in-law has a gambling problem, a serious one. How serious? I ask, studying the timestamps on the photos. He's in debt to some people you don't want to be in debt to. Meredith swipes to another screen. Based on my sources, he owes approximately $350,000 to several loan sharks. That's why they accelerated their timeline for taking control of your assets. The pieces start falling into place. So this isn't just about greed, it's desperation. Exactly. And there's more. She pulls up a series of emails between Emma and a wedding planner. They've been planning an extravagant destination wedding in Bali. Budget is just over $175,000, all using money they expected to get from you. I feel sick as I scroll through the emails. Emma discussing flower arrangements that cost more than my monthly grocery budget when I was raising her. Tyler adding guests to the list, upgrading accommodations, insisting on top-shelf liquor packages. Have they already spent money on this? I ask. Meredith's expression turns grim. That's where things get interesting. They've somehow gained access to some of your smaller accounts already. My tech specialist traced unusual activity over the past 3 months. She shows me transaction records that make my heart sink. They've siphoned off just over $200,000 so far. Small enough amounts from different accounts that it wouldn't trigger immediate alarms, but significant in total. How is that possible? I never gave them access. Tyler's father has connections at several banks. We believe he helped them create fraudulent access credentials. She pauses. There's something else you should see. The next photo shows Emma and Tyler at a jewelry store. The timestamp is from just last week. She's trying on a 7-carat diamond. Price tag is just under $120,000. They put a deposit down using your American Express card. I remember noticing a strange charge that Emma had explained away as a mistake that would be refunded. Another lie. What's your recommendation? I ask, feeling suddenly exhausted. We have enough evidence for criminal charges, Meredith says, but if you confront them now, they'll scatter. Tyler's father has resources to help them hide assets and possibly flee jurisdiction. So, what's the alternative? A small, determined smile crosses her face. We set a trap. Give them enough rope to hang themselves, as they say. Over the next hour, we develop a plan. I'll continue pretending I'm unaware of their scheme. Meanwhile, Meredith will install discrete recording devices in my home to capture any incriminating conversations. We'll create a false paper trail suggesting I'm considering changing my will to leave everything to Emma, which should accelerate their plans. The key, Meredith explains, is to get them to explicitly discuss their intentions on record, preferably with Tyler's father present, since he's the mastermind. As we finish our coffee, I ask the question that's been burning in my mind. Did you find anything to suggest Emma ever cared about me? Meredith hesitates, which tells me everything before she even speaks. I'm sorry. From what I've gathered, this plan has been in motion since shortly after she learned about your inheritance. There are text messages between them dating back almost to the beginning. I nod, swallowing the lump in my throat. I appreciate your honesty. For what it's worth, she adds, people do terrible things when money is involved. It doesn't necessarily mean she never loved you, but we both know that's not true. true. The evidence paints a clear picture of a daughter who saw me as nothing more than an obstacle between her and millions of dollars. That evening, Emma calls to invite me to dinner that weekend. Tyler and I want to discuss some ideas for managing your estate, she says, her voice dripping with false concern. We've been talking to his dad, and he has some great suggestions for protecting your assets. That sounds wonderful, dear, I reply, the lies bitter on my tongue. I've been feeling a bit confused lately, so I could use the help. Oh, Mom, she sighs, and I can practically hear her excitement at this admission. Don't worry, we'll take care of everything. After we hang up, I sit in my kitchen looking at old photos of Emma as a child, the gap-toothed smile of a 6-year-old who once brought me dandelions from the yard, the serious expression of a 12-year-old working on a science project, the distant teenager who began pulling away, embarrassed by our modest life. I think about the sacrifices I made, the meals skipped, the second jobs worked, the dreams deferred, all to give her opportunities I never had. And now she's planning to discard me like garbage once she gets what she wants. The hurt is still there, but something else is growing stronger. Determination, resolve. They think I'm an easy target, a simple-minded woman who got lucky with an inheritance. They have no idea who they're dealing with. I text Meredith, dinner this weekend. They're making their move. Her reply comes seconds later. Perfect. I'll have everything in place by Friday. I pour myself a glass of wine, Uncle Frank's favorite Cabernet, that costs more than I used to make in a day, and raise it in a silent toast to what's coming. Emma and Tyler think they're setting a trap for me, but they're walking right into mine. The game is on. I spend all week planning the dinner with a precision that would impress a military strategist. The menu is carefully selected: Uncle Frank's favorite prime rib recipe, truffle mashed potatoes, and a chocolate souffle for dessert. Not because I want to impress them, but because I want them comfortable, relaxed, and utterly unprepared for what's coming. Meredith installs recording devices throughout my dining room and living room, hidden in decorative items that blend seamlessly with my decor. Remember, she says as she tests the equipment, let them talk. The more they incriminate themselves, the stronger our case. When Saturday evening arrives, I'm surprisingly calm. I've rehearsed this moment so many times in my head that it feels almost like I'm watching someone else go through the motions. I greet Emma with a hug, noting how she stiffens slightly before forcing herself to return it. Mom, you look nice, she says, scanning my outfit with barely concealed surprise. I'm wearing a simple but elegant dress that costs more than she makes in a month at her grocery store job. It's a subtle reminder of who has the power here, though she doesn't realize it yet. Tyler kisses my cheek, his cologne overpowering. Missus Johnson, thank you for having us. His parents, Richard and Diane, follow with practiced smiles and a bottle of mid-range wine that's meant to seem generous without being suspicious. Please, call me Elaine, I say to Richard, watching him assess my home with calculating eyes. I know he's mentally cataloging assets, estimating values. The predatory nature of it turns my stomach. Dinner conversation flows with artificial pleasantness. Emma asks about my health with exaggerated concern. Have you been remembering to take your medications, Mom? You seemed a little confused when we spoke on the phone last week. I play along, fumbling slightly with my water glass. Oh, you know how I get sometimes. The days just blend together. Tyler and Richard exchange glances. Diane asks if I've considered simplifying my living situation. Many people your age find managing a house so overwhelming. I have been thinking about the future, I admit, watching Emma lean forward eagerly. In fact, I've been reconsidering my estate planning. Richard sets down his fork. That's actually why we wanted to talk tonight, Elaine. As a probate attorney, I see many people your age struggling with these decisions. I'd be happy to help guide you through the process. That's so kind, I say, refilling wine glasses. Emma has mentioned how helpful you've been. The meal continues, and with each course, they grow bolder. By the time I serve dessert, they're practically salivating, and not for the souffle. Mom, Emma says, reaching for my hand across the table, we're worried about you living alone with your memory issues. Tyler and I think it might be best if you consider moving somewhere with more support. We found a lovely place in Arizona, Tyler adds. Beautiful grounds, full-time care staff. I take a deep breath and reach for my purse beside my chair. Before we discuss that, I'd like to show you something. I pull out a folder and spread several documents on the cleared table. Do these look familiar? The forged power of attorney sits atop medical evaluations from a doctor I've never met, bank statements showing unauthorized transfers, wedding planning emails with my money funding their extravagance. The room goes completely silent. Emma's face drains of color. Tyler looks like he might vomit. Richard recovers first, his lawyer instincts kicking in. Elaine, I'm not sure what you think these are, but they're evidence. I interrupt, my voice steady. Evidence of fraud, conspiracy, and attempted elder abuse. Evidence that my daughter and her fiance, with your help, plan to declare me incompetent, ship me off to a substandard facility, and drain my accounts. Emma's shock transforms into anger. You were spying on us? Going through our private emails? The absurdity of her indignation almost makes me laugh. That's your concern? Not that you were planning to rob your own mother? Tyler starts to stand, but I raise my hand. I wouldn't leave if I were you. There's more. I pull out my phone and play a recording from last week, Emma and Tyler discussing how they'd spend Mom's millions once I was out of the picture. Richard's face hardens into something cold and professional. Whatever you think you have, it won't hold up. These recordings were likely obtained illegally. Actually, I say, Arizona is a one-party consent state for recordings, and these were obtained by a licensed private investigator with proper authorization. But thank you for your legal advice, Richard. It will be noted in the record. What record? Diane asks, her voice barely audible. I gesture around the room. Everything happening right now is being recorded. Has been since you arrived. Tyler lunges for his jacket. We're leaving. Now. You can leave, I say calmly. But the police have already been notified. They're waiting for my call to move forward with charges. Richard's professional facade cracks. This was my idea, he admits suddenly. Emma and Tyler just followed my lead. If anyone should be charged, Dad, Tyler shouts. Shut up, but Richard continues, perhaps hoping to negotiate. The kids are getting married. They needed money. When Emma mentioned your inheritance, it seemed convenient. Emma stares at me, tears welling in her eyes. You don't understand understand what it was like growing up with nothing while you worked minimum wage jobs. Do you know how embarrassing that was? How the other kids treated me? I deserve some of this money after everything I went through. Her words hit me like physical blows. Everything you went through? I skipped meals so you could eat. I worked double shifts so you could have new clothes while I wore the same uniform for years. I sacrificed everything for you. And then you got lucky, she shouts. Uncle Frank dies and suddenly you're rich? You didn't earn that money. Neither did you, I say quietly. And Frank chose me because he knew I would use it wisely. Clearly, he was right. I stand up, suddenly tired of all of them. You have two choices. Option 1, I call the police right now, and you all face criminal charges. The recordings go public. Your reputations and careers are destroyed. Richard pales. And option 2, you sign these. I slide another folder forward containing legal documents my lawyer prepared. Full confession. Agreement to repay every cent you've taken. And you? I look directly at Emma. Never contact me again. The silence is deafening as they realize the trap they've walked into. Emma starts to cry, but I recognize the manipulation for what it is. I've seen those same fake tears when she wanted a new phone or to borrow the car as a teenager. You're bluffing, Tyler says, but his voice wavers. I pick up my phone. Let's find out. Richard grabs the confession papers. We'll sign. All of us. He glares at Tyler until he nods in agreement. As they sign the documents one by one, I feel no triumph, only a profound sadness. The daughter I raised is a stranger to me, a person capable of discarding me for money. When they finish, I collect the papers and stand. Dinner is over. Please leave my home. They file out silently, Emma pausing at the door. Mom, I don't, I say. There's nothing left to say. After they're gone, I sink into my chair, emotionally drained. My phone buzzes with a text from Meredith. Got everything. Clear confessions. You did brilliantly. I should feel victorious. Instead, I feel empty. The money that was supposed to be a blessing has revealed the worst in people I thought loved me, but it also showed me who I really am, stronger than they ever gave me credit for. I pour myself a glass of Uncle Frank's expensive whiskey and make a silent toast to him. You were right about people, I murmur, but you were also right about me. Tomorrow, I'll start figuring out what to do with the rest of my life and my millions. But tonight, I allow myself to grieve for the daughter I thought I had. The police arrive just as Tyler's family is leaving my house. Two officers in crisp uniforms stand on my porch, their faces professionally neutral as they watch the Thornhill family shuffle past them. Emma doesn't look at me as she walks to the car. I can see her shoulders shaking, but I know those tears aren't for me, they're for herself. Mrs. Johnson? The female officer steps forward. I'm Officer Reyes. We received a call from Meredith Zhao about a potential fraud case. I invite them in and hand over the signed confessions along with copies of the evidence Meredith compiled. Officer Reyes flips through the documents, her eyebrows rising slightly. This is thorough, she says. Miss Zhao mentioned there were recordings. I nod and play a few clips from dinner. The officers exchange glances when they hear Tyler's father admit to orchestrating the scheme. We'll need formal statements, but this is enough to start with, Officer Reyes says, especially with the signed confessions. 3 days later, I'm sitting in the district attorney's office. A severe woman named Janet Patel who listens intently as I explain the situation. The evidence is compelling, she says when I finish. Tyler's father's involvement makes this particularly serious. As a probate attorney, he violated numerous ethical standards and laws. Will they go to prison? I ask, surprised by my own mixed feelings about the answer. Richard Thornhill almost certainly will. He's the architect of the scheme and used his position as an attorney to facilitate fraud. For Emma and Tyler, she shuffles through the papers. With the gambling debts and the $200,000 they've already taken, prison time is likely. I drive home in silence, thinking about Emma in a prison jumpsuit. Despite everything, some part of me, the mother who once held her when she had nightmares, aches at the thought. But the woman who planned to declare me incompetent and abandon me in a facility deserves consequences. A week later, the arrests make local headlines. Attorney arrested for elder fraud scheme. The article mentions Emma and Tyler as co-conspirators. I avoid the phone calls from neighbors and acquaintances, not ready to discuss my family's public implosion. Mr. Daniels helps me recover the stolen funds and secure my accounts. What are your plans now? He asks as we finish the paperwork. The question catches me off guard. For months, I've been focused on uncovering the plot against me. Now that it's over, I realize I haven't thought about what comes next. I don't know, I admit. I have more money than I could ever spend, and no family left to share it with. He smiles gently. That's not entirely true. You have choices now. His words stay with me for days. Choices. Uncle Frank's inheritance wasn't just money, it was freedom. Freedom to choose what mattered to me. I think about my life before Emma, working double shifts as a grocery cashier, struggling to provide for my daughter as a single mother. How many other women were in that position right now? 3 months after the arrests, I meet with a different kind of lawyer, one who specializes in nonprofits. Together, we establish the New Beginnings Foundation, dedicated to helping single mothers pursue education and career advancement. We offer scholarships, child care assistance, and mentoring programs. This is impressive, says Meredith when I show her the foundation's website. We've stayed in touch, becoming something like friends. You're going to help a lot of women. I hope so, I say. It feels right, using Frank's money this way. The foundation becomes my purpose. I spend my days reviewing applications, meeting with recipients, and developing new programs. For the first time in years, I feel truly fulfilled. Richard Thornhill is sentenced to 8 years for fraud, conspiracy, and ethics violations. His license to practice law is revoked. Tyler gets 4 years, his sentence enhanced by the gambling debts that motivated the scheme. Emma receives 3 years with possibility of parole after 18 months. I don't attend any of the sentencing hearings. Those chapters of my life are closed. 2 years pass. The foundation grows, helping hundreds of women. I receive letters of gratitude that I keep in a special box, reading them on days when memories of Emma's betrayal surface. Then, on a Tuesday morning, a letter arrives with a prison return address. Mom, it begins, I don't expect you to forgive me. What I did was unforgivable. I've had a lot lot of time to think about why I did it. I could blame Tyler or his father, but the truth is, I made my choices. I was greedy and entitled and horrible to the one person who always loved me unconditionally. I have to set the letter down, my hands shaking too much to continue. I make tea, staring out the window at my garden for nearly an hour before I can return to it. I've been taking classes while in here. Did you know they offer college courses? I'm studying social work. I want to help people when I get out, not use them. I don't expect anything from you, but I wanted you to know I'm trying to be better. I get released next month. I understand if you never want to see me again. Love, Emma. I fold the letter carefully and place it in my desk drawer. I don't respond immediately. Instead, I call Meredith and ask her to verify Emma's claims about the classes. She's telling the truth, Meredith reports a week later. She's completed several courses with excellent grades. Her counselor says she's shown genuine remorse and growth. People can change. I want to believe that. But trust, once shattered, isn't easily rebuilt. When I finally write back, my message is simple. I'm glad you're getting an education. When you're released, contact my lawyer if you're serious about continuing your studies. I'll consider helping with that. Nothing more for now. The day after Emma's release, Mr. Daniels calls to say she's contacted him. She wants to meet with you, he says. I told her it's your decision. We meet at a cafe downtown, neutral territory. She looks different, thinner, her hair shorter, her eyes clearer. She doesn't try to hug me. Thank you for seeing me, she says, her voice soft but steady. I'm not making any promises, I tell her. She nods. I understand. I just wanted to tell you in person that I'm sorry and to ask about your offer to help with school. We talk for an hour. She tells me about her plans to finish her degree, her hopes to work with at-risk youth. I tell her about the foundation. We don't discuss Tyler or the past. As we prepare to leave, she asks, do you think you could ever trust me again? I look at my daughter, the baby I once rocked to sleep, the child I sacrificed for, the woman who betrayed me, and now this stranger trying to rebuild her life. I don't know, I answer honestly, but I'm willing to see who you become. It's not forgiveness, not yet, but it's a choice I'm making to leave the door open just enough to let possibility in. Uncle Frank's money revealed the worst in my family, but perhaps it can also reveal the best in me.